Hi Year 5, welcome to week 3 reading. This is day 1 and we are looking at Peter Pan. Just a bit of background information on the book. One big thing I want to point out is this is more than just a Disney movie. In fact, the book came first. It was written by J.M. Barrie in 1911. This explains why some of the language used in this book is tricky, and we're going to explore some of that language later in this presentation. It was actually presented under the original title of Peter and Wendy. It was originally a play, not a novel, so not a storybook. This famous story has been captured on stage, film and TV many times. Barrie gifted the copyright of Peter Pan to GOSH, which stands for Great Ormond Street Hospital, meaning that every time something related to Peter Pan is bought, the hospital gets money. That is called royalties, and this is really special because Great Ormond Street Hospital is a hospital that looks after sick and poorly children. So, some background information on the story. We aren't starting this text at the very beginning. We're starting this text when we learn a little bit more about Captain Hook, a famous pirate. Now, this is set in the fantasy land of Never Never Land. In this land, children do not grow up. Peter takes 4 children, they're all siblings, from London to his home. He lives in Never Never Land. They meet mermaids, pirates, and have adventures together. During the extract we are looking at, Peter's been beaten by his arch nemesis, Captain Hook, a villainous pirate who lives on the ship, the Jolly Roger, and has taken the Lost Boys hostage. So, we're going to meet some of the characters today that are in our text, just so we get a bit of understanding about who they are. As I've said, we're not starting from the very beginning of the book, so it'll be helpful for us just to know who they are. So there aren't too many characters in the extract we're looking at, but I just wanted to point out the main ones. So we've got Captain Hook. He's the villain of the story. He is a person who often goes to war as such against Peter Pan. You can see him in the picture. He's wearing naval clothes, so we can suggest that maybe before he was a pirate, maybe he was in the Navy. He looks quite fancy, quite posh with his long curly hair and his very groomed moustache, so we can sense that maybe he was a posh person before he became a pirate. Then we got Peter Pan. Now it says he's a boy that doesn't want to grow up. Obviously, the story is named after him, so we know he's the central character, the main character. Next, we have Smee, and he's described as a hopeless pirate. He is on the Jolly Roger with Captain Hook and often does things in quite a silly, buffoonish way, making lots of mistakes. And lastly, in that picture you can see a group of boys. They're called the Lost Boys. They're Peter's group of friends who are all stuck on Neverland with him. Just like Peter, they aren't growing up. And in this extract, we're going to actually find out what's happened to them. Chapter 14, The Pirate Ship. One green light squinting. Well, that's an interesting word, squinting. We know that when we squint, it might be we're blinded maybe by the sun, so we're having to squint, so our eyes get quite narrow. So we're looking in quite a narrow, small amount through our eye. So one green light squinting suggests it's quite a small, focused, narrow light beaming over. One great light squinting over Kidd's Creek, which is near the mouth of the Pirate River. That's interesting because we have mouths, but it's very different to what this is suggesting. We know from our study of the Egyptian Nile and looking at rivers that the mouth of a river is actually the beginning part. It's where the river or the sea starts. Marked where the brig, the Jolly Roger, lay. Oh, the brig. Now, this chapter is called The Pirate Ship, and we can see that we've got a lovely picture of a ship here. Now, the Jolly Roger is in italics, so it suggests it might be the name of the ship. But here we've got the word the brig, marked where the brig, the Jolly Roger, lay. So that suggests to me that brig is another word for ship. So where the brig, the Jolly Roger, lay, low in the water, a rakish-looking craft foul to the hull. Now, a hull of the boat is basically the bottom part of the boat or the ship. So it's foul to the very bottom. The word foul, spelt differently, but if you think about a foul in football, it's not a good thing, clearly. You might describe food as foul. If it tastes foul, it means it's disgusting, it's horrid. So a rakish-looking craft, horrid until the very bottom. And that phrase, rakish-looking, quite an unusual phrase. We won't hear it often in our everyday language, but rakish-looking suggests that it's unreputable. It's not got a good reputation. So it's got a negative reputation. It's almost seen as a villain in itself. Quite an interesting way to describe a ship. So a rakish-looking craft foul to the hull. Very negative way of describing this pirate ship. Every beam in her detestable. Again, a lovely, lovely adjective to describe this ship. Something's detestable. It means you really can't stand it or you hate it. I detest it. Like ground strewn with mangled feathers. Again, all the adjectives we've looked at so far to describe this ship have been very negative. So I can assume that the word mangled is a negative adjective with mangled feathers. So it's not going to be beautiful feathers or clean feathers because they're quite positive descriptions. I can imagine it might mean dirty or broken or destroyed. I'm going to go with the word destroyed, like ground strewn, with destroyed feathers. She was the cannibal of the seas. Now, I love this phrase. Such a beautiful description of this boat. Now, the word cannibal suggests that it is often an animal that eats animals of its own kind. So maybe this ship is great at destroying other ships. Really paints the picture of this ship being a real villain and destructive and horrible. It's a lovely bit of personification to describe this craft. She was the cannibal of the seas and scarce needed that watchful eye, for she floated immune in the horror of her nature. Okay, so I've got the same text here, and I'm just looking at question 1 from your packs for now. So question 1, what was near the mouth of the river? We've got that question word here, what. So it looks like I'm looking for something, which suggests to me this is a retrieval question. Think back to last week when I showed you the best way to answer retrieval questions, and think if you can do this by yourself. So just pause the video, read through the text, have a go at this yourself. Okay, so what was near the mouth of the river? I'm going to look for this phrase, the mouth of the river, in my text. I'm just going to skim read it and look for that phrase, and once I've found it, I'm going to highlight it or underline it using a pencil or pen if that's what you've got at home. Okay. The mouth of the pirate river. Slightly different wording than in the questions. We've omitted the word pirate from the question. Don't let that confuse you, because it's still the mouth of the river. So, one green light squinting over Kidd's Creek, which is near the mouth of the pirate river. So it's Kidd's Creek. So my answer to question 1 would be Kidd's Creek. So question 3 is still looking at the same section of text, and it's got that question word why. So we're having to write a bit of an explanation here. Why is describing the Jolly Roger, the cannibal of the seas, effective? Now, if you think back to my talk aloud, I really spoke about me loving this phrase, the cannibal of the seas, and how it was a great way to describe the boat, or the ship, sorry. So let's have a look and highlight that again in our text just to remind ourselves. There we go. She was the cannibal of the seas. Now, as we remember, this ship was described in a very negative way. And if you think back to what a cannibal is, the fact that it eats its own kind, so the ship might destroy other ships, it's so effective because it really highlights how dangerous the Jolly Roger is. Calling it the cannibal of the seas suggests that no other creature or no other boat or ship in the seas is as deadly as the Jolly Roger. So really think about why the author has chosen to use that description. Okay. So some vocabulary you might need. We have talked a bit about some of this vocab looking through the text. However, some of the words are new to us, so they might need re-explanation or they might be further in the text. Now, earlier I said a brig was a ship. As well as being a ship, it's quite tricky because it's also described the ship's prison. So it can either describe the ship or the ship's prison. It can be used in different ways, and it has been used in both ways in this text. We looked at that word rakish looking, and I said it was slightly disreputable look, which means it's not respected. It's got a bad reputation. Bulwarks, they're an extension to the ship's side, so almost like railings that keep you safe from falling over and toppling over. Miasma, an unpleasant or unhealthy smell. And gait is the manner of walking. Okay, so how someone walks down the street, you might say they have a very athletic looking gait. If they've got a nice upper strong body, you might say they've got a very relaxed gait. If they're slouching and taking their time walking, so someone's gait is how they walk. Good luck with the questions. They are slightly tricky because the language is quite hard in this text. I'm hoping you'll enjoy it. If you have any questions, remember to email your class teachers with your class account or message on Teams. I will be releasing day 2 later in the week to help you, as I said. If you need any help, feel free to contact your class teachers. We miss you, Year 5.